Do you know that 73% of customers agree that a bad restroom experience in a restaurant will impact their willingness to return? Torque Sustainable Hygiene Solutions improve operational efficiency for a better guest experience and better business.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Extra Serving, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I'm Alicia Kelso, executive editor, filling in today for Sam Okus, our editor-in-chief, who is out on assignment, and I am thrilled to be joined by my esteemed colleague, managing editor Leigh Anne Zinsmeister. Leigh Anne, good morning.
Good morning, Alicia. This is so fun. It's been a minute since I've gotten to do Extra Serving.
Yes, and I like the ladies' night.
Girls only. The boys can listen, but this is a girls only.
Stinky boys. Yes, no, and it's Monday morning, so we're getting some cobwebs off as we head into this week 2 of earnings, which we'll get into. But it's like I said, it's really early Monday morning. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was very chill and relaxing. My friends and I have a tradition every summer where we spend a Saturday watching cartoons and eating cereal. Obviously cereal is a food, but the other food tie-in is that I got to give my friend's 14-month-old his first marshmallow out of my Lucky Charms and changed his whole life for the better.
Oh God. Yeah, that is formidable. That is a formidable experience. Very good.
Aunties for if that's not right. Sneaking you sugar.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, I took a rare 2 days off. I don't think I've had a vacation day. I've traveled a lot, but I haven't had a vacation day since like April. And I went to San Diego and had a girls' weekend with some of my closest girlfriends from high school. And it was everything I needed. I forget. I'm so enamored with the Southern California food scene. It just all seems fresher and healthier and colorful. And, we went to a couple of cute little local haunts. There's this cute cafe called Little Lion. We went to this American fusion restaurant that was called Coco Maya, and it was all so delicious. But the Coco Maya thing stood out to me, especially because the service was so memorable. And, we're with our girlfriends, and the servers were in and out, just, engaging with us and taking our picture. And we went all of us had our milestone 50th birthday this year. So they had cake it was just like I said, they really facilitated an even more memorable experience than just the good food. So
kind of service really makes a difference, because that's what you're going to remember and tell people about, the next time someone goes to San Diego. Oh, you got to go to this place. Yep.
No doubt. And it's certainly something we're talking about more here as restaurants try to differentiate in a really challenging environment. But speaking of that challenging environment, Domino's seems to be doing okay. Yeah.
And okay, I think is something they will take.
Yeah, no, they had actually a pretty surprisingly robust second quarter. We kicked off second quarter earnings last week in earnest with Domino's coming out of the gate. Positive for the most part. Russell Weiner mentioned that they're taking share in pizza. They have a dominant market share position. We have their biggest rivals yet to report. But what are your initial thoughts on the Domino's earnings report from last week?
It's interesting. For the last year or so, I feel like every time Domino's has reported, I've made the metaphor of they're just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. They've made a lot of changes, and a lot of their changes feel a little outdated. They're new to the third-party delivery scene. They're new to stuffed crust pizza, which actually earned them some ire from their competitors on social media. But here we are, and it seems like those things are making a difference in a positive way. And so they've made all these changes. They've got their Hungry for More strategy is what they call it. And it seems to be paying off, as you said, at least in an okay way. I think they are perhaps maybe keeping pace with inflation. But Domino's is doing all right. Stuffed crust pizza, third-party delivery. Again, they're only using it as a marketplace, I believe. They're still using their own drivers, but that seems to be making a difference, just getting the brand in front of more people. So as much as I may have expressed doubt previously, I guess people do get on DoorDash and think, oh, yes, I do want Domino's.
Yeah, we are certainly a lot of convenience, right? And 3.4% same-store sales growth after a rare slight negative quarter in the first quarter is a really great recovery. And to your point, they are Johnny come latelys on stuffed crust and third party delivery. But when you have the biggest footprint by unit count, and you know that customers, by large want stuffed crust and third party delivery convenience, then you're going to benefit from having that giant footprint to be top of mind when you are getting into those two games. And I think that's exactly what paid off here. What was interesting to me is, Domino's, they said they expect about $5 billion to come from this third party delivery integration, and a third of that's going to go to the company's top line. So there's a lot of upside to come here. But I think what really stood out to me this quarter, Leigh Anne, was the whole carryout business. It grew by almost 6% in the quarter. And that was a new high for the company. It obviously, when customers come into the restaurants to pick up their pizza, it's a stronger value proposition for them. Domino's has spent the past several years doing their fortressing strategy, intentionally opening locations that were relatively close to each other to make Domino's, more accessible, essentially for both carryout customers and delivery customers. And I think when we see that carryout business, which is also it's more practical and more profitable for the company as well. When we see that growing and becoming, parity with the delivery business, that's where the upside is. And I think that's where the fortressing strategy is really paying off. And it bolsters those unit economics too. So we have a really interesting competition happening in the pizza space right now, where at large, the category has been really soft. And my thesis is it's because there's so many, competitors on third party now, where we just have this habit of going to the phone and picking what's easiest. But I think that carryout business is what's really interesting to me. What do you have thoughts on that carryout business? Or
only that, that's something that Domino's has been working on for a while. They had that promotion when there was a delivery driver shortage, where they were like, come pick up your own pizza and you get a discount. They called it like tipping their customers if they do their own delivery. I will say Domino's has always been strong on the marketing innovation front. So it's interesting to see them experimenting with some different means of driving revenue and to see it paying off. But like you said, I'm really curious to see how Pizza Hut and Papa John's report soon, and to see how they're holding up against the competition.
Indeed. Yeah, well, what do we know when Papa John's reports? It's not my beat.
Oh, you're right. None of these are your beat. So
Yum is. Pizza Hut will be.
Yum is, yes.
Early August is Yum. So, and they've had, I think, the roughest of the go. But I think what we're going to see with the next couple of with those two reports, especially, is how this value proposition is playing out, because all three of them had a really challenging first quarter. The whole industry, except for, a handful of anomalous players, had a challenging first quarter. But these are the players that have really pushed hard into value. Even Papa John's last week had launched a BOGO. They were Johnny come latelys on the value proposition. So I'm interested to see how that is going to play out in pizza, because pizza, I think, has historically been a value play.
But yeah, it's like the original value.
And now they've got everybody from Chili's to McDonald's and everybody in between jumping into value. So that may have eroded some of the pizza market share too. As we see these pizza chains continue to struggle.
Or it could be something that consumers think, oh, I only have $20 for dinner tonight. Let's order a pizza. Because it's in their brains as the original value deal.
Yeah. And I think that's what excited me about Domino's having a good quarter. It's like pizza's the value, the original value, the OG value.
Yeah.
Right? It's the OG value. And so now that we continue to be in this really intense value, environment, I think that's really interesting to see it play out. We'll see how, like I said, we'll see how Papa John's and Pizza Hut play out as well. In the meantime, right after Domino's came Chipotle, and that was rough. What are your initial takeaways from Chipotle's Q2?
Well, first of all, you know who has a lot of thoughts on Chipotle is the people in our TikTok comments.
Yes.
You and I both made TikToks about this, and boy, did people come out with their opinions. Look, Chipotle is having a rough time, and that's not it's unusual for Chipotle, but it's not unusual for a restaurant company in this economic environment. It is, I believe you reported, the first time since 2016 that they had 2 quarters in a row of negative same-store sales. So it's not looking great for Chipotle. I do think Chipotle will be fine, but they do have the problem of convincing people that they have a value proposition. I know that CEO Scott Boatwright made a comment to that effect on the call, saying that they have a good value proposition, but they're not communicating it well. And again, I think that consumers largely agree with that sentiment, and that they do not think Chipotle is a good value. So figuring out how to either convince consumers that they are a good value or figuring out how to be a better value is going to be the ticket. It's really, I think, largely a perception problem at Chipotle right now.
Yeah, Scott Boatwright said that these issues were not self-inflicted. I'm looking at that negative 4.9% traffic number, and that was like a stab in the heart. It was like, woof.
Yeah, the traffic numbers are the ones that get you.
What surprised me, though, Leigh Anne, what surprised me about all this commentary, and one of the initiatives, you're right, one of the initiatives that Chipotle has in place and underway is trying to communicate why it is more of a value. And Boatwright said that, quote, "we're not getting credit here." And I think it surprised me because he did mention that a lot of this traffic erosion is coming from lower income consumers. And Chipotle always over indexes on middle and higher income consumers. And so when they're having low income consumers, that's McDonald's problem. That's where McDonald's has really struggled throughout the past year. It really surprised me to hear Chipotle talk about that too. And it makes me wonder if the low income consumers last year, perhaps at the end of last year, traded into Chipotle in lieu of McDonald's when McDonald's became a perceived too expensive option. Fast casual had a really strong 2024 while QSR kind of floundered a little bit. And I'm wondering if that was what was happening. And now low income consumers are trading out altogether in favor of grocery. So that comment, not getting enough credit for value, surprised me because Chipotle has always pushed that narrative that they are almost parity to QSR, that they have a higher perceived value, in terms of food quality. They're convenient because there's a lot of locations and they have mobile order ahead, and just their whole lean into their quality ingredients with their supply chain and so forth. And so I just think that was something that really, really interested me. And they have put, from my perspective, they have thrown a lot, like you said about Domino's, thrown a lot against, thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall here after they went negative in the first quarter, their first negative quarter since 2020, since the pandemic. They put a lot of money into marketing more this summer. And, how much I'm writing about their marketing campaigns.
almost every day.
Almost. It feels like it.
And I know they're also leaning more into menu innovation. They're doing more LTOs than they ever have before.
Yes.
Trying to get people in the door. Fast casual is a tough spot to be in right now because, and we've talked about this, low income consumers are trading down to QSR and other consumers are saying, well, I can go to Chili's, which is really good at marketing its value proposition, and spend maybe a little bit more and get, a proper sit down burger, meal, whatever.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a really interesting third quarter. I think this is going to be a critical third quarter because it was hard to gauge where they are now. One thing I like about these earnings calls are they'll these companies will give us a peek. First quarter was a good example here. First quarter was a little bit of a bloodbath for a lot of concepts, not just because lower income consumers were continuing to sit on the sidelines, but we had really anomalous weather. Like there was snow in New Orleans. First quarter is always a challenge with weather, but not fires in Los Angeles and snow in New Orleans challenge. Like this was an anomalous year. So we got a glimpse of early Q2 where there was sequential improvement in traffic and sales across the board. Now we're getting that look at Q2. And I think that's what surprised me so much, is because Chipotle did go negative first quarter, talked about that sequential improvement at the end of the first quarter and into Q2. And now they're talking about having a choppy July. And so what's the third quarter going to yield? Is marketing enough to turn this stuff around? Is a third LTO, when they historically do two LTOs, enough? They are getting a lot of incremental sales from that third LTO, that dip. They haven't had a new dip in 5 years. People want dips and sauces. They want that stuff. So that's exciting. It's new news. I think it's worth noting that Chipotle is also doing a ton of work to make their operations more efficient as well. Yes. Like they're adding produce slicers, a full equipment package that's expected to be completely rolled out throughout the system in the next 3 years, and just improving performance and making things more consistent. You mentioned the social media comments that we get, which is really, really interesting. Anecdotally, you know what I mean?
It's an interesting peek into the mind of a consumer. And obviously this is a certain kind of consumer who's like scrolling TikTok.
Sure.
But it's this, it's similar to when we go on Reddit and search for our brands and see what are people talking about, because sometimes there's a story there.
No question. And, we're getting that on LinkedIn too. The LinkedIn comments, I think, are interesting because a lot of times it is, more on the expert side versus consumer side. And I think that the consensus is that, I think that that little shrinkflation crisis that Chipotle went through last year, I think that is having a lingering effect, because that was a value perception hit. Chipotle's always been known for having a good value, but when this whole, smaller burrito shrinkflation narrative started proliferating on social media and elsewhere, I don't know that they've fully recovered for that, even though they've made the investments to bolster their portion size.
No, a lot of my comments are like, well, then stop skimping on my rice and beans and, give me more meat. And that. So it's definitely hard to erase something like that.
Sure. Social media. Ugh.
Can't live with it. Can't live without it.
Yes. Yeah. No, thank you. Okay. Well, we'll see. Again, I think it's really interesting too, because there were some analysts' questions, I think, that were alluding or nuanced about whether or not Chipotle was taking a hit in specific markets. And those markets are very strong with Cava. And so I think a lot of these nuanced questions were asking, hey, there's a hot new player on the block. Is that, with a lot of buzz, a lot of news, a lot of momentum, is that impacting the markets where there's a heavy Cava presence? And, obviously the Chipotle's executives flatly said, no, there's no difference between those markets. But I do think that's interesting. It kind of reminds me of the conversation that we're having right now about Starbucks. You cannot deny that there is some market share issues.
Oh, yeah.
Or erosion, or just even top of mind share with the hot newbies on the block in Dutch Bros and Seven Brew. And so I think that's a really interesting conversation that we'll keep an eye on.
The conversation people were having about Chipotle 20 years ago was Chipotle was the hot new thing in town. And welcome to the other side.
Yeah, no question. Speaking of Starbucks, Dutch Bros, Seven Brew, there was an announcement that came out last week that when I was on vacation and I was keeping one eye on,
I heard from you a lot.
I can't help myself. And it's not breaking. It's not earth shattering. We've certainly talked about it at length on this podcast and elsewhere. And that is that McDonald's has confirmed that they will be doing a pretty extensive beverage test based on its short-lived CosMc's concept at the end of this year. I think it was October, about 500 locations, Arizona and Colorado. I anticipate this becoming a bigger deal. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. Like you said, this isn't a big surprise. They had those handful of CosMc's units. They tested this out. I recognize one of the drinks on the new menu. Now, there was no information, but they gave names and pictures of a few of the drinks that are going to be on the McDonald's menu. I recognize one of them from my trip to CosMc back in February. So they've taken what they've learned and they're going to roll it out in the stores. I think this is smart. I mean, you said from the beginning that you thought this was their end goal, was to, you know, have more beverage innovation in the stores. And so I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to do really well for them. You know, it's similar to what Taco Bell is doing with the Live Más cafes, which I have not been to yet. But I have seen on, speaking of TikTok, like scrolling TikTok, I've seen influencers like going to the Taco Bell with the fancy drinks and being like, oh my God, this is so cool, and trying them all. So like, that's a play for McDonald's. It's going to be a draw. So I'm excited to see it play out. I'm excited that Arizona is on the list because that is another place I frequent, and I will get to try this out as soon as hopefully over the holidays. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think two things here that really are striking. We have seen and reported on the explosion of specialty beverage concepts. It's very clear that this is what consumers want. I mean, just in my neighborhood alone, there's 3 7 Brews within a 6-mile square radius. We just opened a Dutch Bros, and there's 3 Starbucks. And I'm not even in the most populous part of Louisville. And I go to 7 Brew every Friday morning after swim practice, and it's packed. And these special intent trips. Imagine being a McDonald's operator across the street from 7 Brew. And just watching the traffic go, I don't want food all the time. You know, I just want that pick me up. McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's, Burger King announced last week that they are adding some cold brew and specialty lemonades. Every company is pushing towards specialty beverages in earnest because they're either already losing those special trip intents for specialty beverages that customers want in the morning and at 3:00 and otherwise, or because they know that they eventually will, because these concepts are growing like wildfire. You know, 7 Brews sales were 165% higher last year than in 2023. Their footprint was 80% bigger. I mean, these concepts are coming and they're building across from McDonald's.
Yeah. I mean, I think 7 Brew was the fastest growing chain 2 years in a row, which is the kind of momentum that's really hard to accomplish long term like that. Yeah, so I totally agree. And McDonald's has this beverage innovation team. Like, they've got a whole team of people that they just recently brought on, created this team for this purpose. So it's cool to see them putting this into action so quickly.
It is, yes, I agree. And I think the big thing they're going to be watching for is that operational piece. You know, McDonald's obviously has extraordinarily high volumes. That Chris Kempczinski, the CEO of McDonald's, did mention that the operations were what they were most looking at, and which beverages were most ordered. But operationally, there wasn't a lot of trip up. You know, they thought that customers would be ordering everything so customized. And I think it was 85% of the drinks were ordered as is. That is an important learning to bring into McDonald's proper, because you don't want to mess up the operations of McDonald's proper, that business. And I think that was the green light that they needed, that, okay, these aren't as customized as we thought they were going to be. 1, 2, most of these consumers want that food attachment. So it's a perfect marriage for McDonald's. Definitely. Like we said, it's going to start in 500 restaurants in the fall. I imagine this ramping up really, really quickly. I mean, these specialty concepts are growing way too fast for McDonald's to sit on the sidelines any longer on this conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. It's very exciting. I can't wait to try it out.
And, you know, one of those is they're testing dirty sodas. And that's a whole other conversation for a whole other extra serving. But everybody from Applebee's and IHOP to KFC and Papa John's is getting into dirty sodas.
That's been the last couple weeks. Yeah. I mean, it's been a trend for who knows how long, but everyone's really on it right now.
Yes. And I mean, that also is you know, in response to how fast Swig and Fizz are growing. So Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see 3 to 5 years from now how this entire thing plays out. I do worry a little bit about those specialty concepts because they're growing very, very quickly. They do, most of them have really strong average unit volume still. But when the big guys like Wendy's and Taco Bell and McDonald's are rolling out pretty much the same thing,
sure,
we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Of course, we will keep you posted. I think that's all we have time for today. We have so much more to talk about.
We could do a part 2 later this week.
Yeah, because there was quite a bit of news last week.
There really was. But and it's going to keep building as the
I love it. Because yes, earnings season.
Best time of year.
Best 4 times of the year. Absolutely. But we're rolling in now, right, into an interview with Annica Conrad.
Yes, we are.
The chief brand officer at City Barbeque, and she was interviewed at the recent National Restaurant Association show in Chicago by our esteemed colleague, Ron Ruggless. And so we will roll into that. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me today. And maybe we can talk offline about Sam behind his back since he's not here.
I would love nothing more, Alicia. Thanks for having me on today.
All right. Talk soon.
Bye.
Do you know that 73% of customers agree that a bad restroom experience in a restaurant will impact their willingness to return? Torque's sustainable hygiene solutions improve operational efficiency for a better guest experience and better business.
Thank you very much for taking time out of your show going at the National Restaurant Association show, Annica. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about City Barbeque.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, of course. So I'm Annica Conrad. I'm the Chief Brand Officer for City Barbeque. We are a fast casual, handcrafted, traditional barbecue concept. We're based in Columbus, Ohio. We have almost 80 locations in 10 states. So we're in a great growth phase right now. We'll open a couple more states up this year. We can, chat a little bit about that if you'd like, but we're excited. We're excited about the growth. A lot of potential for us out there. I've been with the company about 2.5 years. The company's been around for 25 years. So a really great legacy brand that almost in some ways feels like a startup right now. We're having so much great growth and a lot of fun and good things happening.
What are the best sellers on the menu?
Probably not a surprise. Pulled pork and brisket are our top 2. Then they can sometimes go back and forth a little bit, but those are really our workhorses.
Are you finding regional differences? Barbecue is such a regional thing right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that's one of the biggest questions that people always have is, how do you compete? Barbecue is so regionalized, right? And so, people love whatever they grew up on or wherever they live. It's interesting because our founder, who really, when he was developing the concept, he was very methodical in his approach to barbecue. He went all over the country multiple times, really tasting all the regional flavors. And what he decided that he wanted to do was really bring the best of each product. So we're not, like a St. Louis style or a Memphis style, but we serve, for example, a St. Louis cut rib. We serve a Texas style brisket. We have sauces that represent different regions. So he was really committed to providing what was going to be the best for that particular cut of protein. And that's really served us well. I think it's allowed us to scale and be competitive. We're in the Carolinas now, and I think there are probably people in the organization who thought, gosh, are we going to be able to compete there, right? That is barbecue country, so how are people going to react to what we do? And those are really some of our biggest, strongest markets. So it's resonated well with people. I think the important thing is that we really do it sort of the time-honored and traditional way. For example, we're low and slow. We cook our brisket for 18 hours. So I think the quality of it comes through, right? So if you appreciate a great brisket, I think you'll really enjoy ours, for example.
A little bit of foreshadowing there. What states are you planning to go into, and what do you see as growth for the City Barbeque brand?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So last year we entered Florida. that's an important market for us. We're in Winter Park outside of Orlando. We will probably open up a couple more markets in Florida. We think it's important for us. I would say we've done a pretty good job about being fairly methodical about our growth. We're all company owned, so we're not selling franchise territories. So we do have the ability to really look at the map strategically and say, okay, we know we need to be adjacent to where we already are, so that a multi-unit manager has access to those locations, and we can make sure that the brand standards are great. Also with supply chain, of course, right? We want to be able to kind of maintain our current distribution centers, or grow in a way that makes sense from supply chain affordability. So for us, for this year, we'll be opening in Alabama and Tennessee. And so, again, we see a lot of white spaces within like those states and some of the other states that we're in. So we're not going to go open in Las Vegas anytime soon, right? Maybe someday as we build our brand towards that. But right now we really kind of operate on more of that sort of concentric circle out model.
Because you're all company owned, you probably know what space or what municipalities you're going into in Tennessee and Alabama. Where can folks expect the brand to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. We do. We're planning to we'll be opening in around the Nashville area. That's obviously it's a super hot market for a lot of people. And we know we want to be in Tennessee. It's kind of one state that we've actually sort of leapfrogged a little bit, so we want to backfill that. And then in Alabama, we'll be opening in Huntsville. So we have a location in Huntsville proper, and also eyeballing some other areas outside of the Huntsville market. So, again, putting us close to Tennessee so that area can kind of be managed together.
Given the economy, everybody that has a public company has been saying it's soft. What are the demographics for City Barbeque, and how have those demographics responded in a rather challenging, or I guess uncertain economy?
Yeah. So it's been obviously this whole year has been a roller coaster ride for all of us. Our biggest block chunk that we have of demographics is a millennial male, makes over $100,000 a year. We have a whole persona built out, and his name is Jake. So he's a single guy. He's got a good job. He has some
he's named Jake.
He's named Jake. He's got some financial pressures coming in. He might have student loans. He's got apartment rent, but he's got a little discretionary income, right? So that's one of our targets. And then we have one that we're really going after this year, which is an Alex Thompson. That's our other guest that we're going to go after, which is also a millennial, but in a very different place. Alex is married, might be male, might be female. Jake is obviously more female, but
I'm glad you selected a non-misogynist name, we Alex.
Did, exactly. So we're going after Alex. Alex has a family, also a millennial. What's interesting is when we look at the data, Alex actually eats out a lot more than Jake does. So, we want to get more share from Alex. So we've really been going after that. We're in a pretty good place. We actually get really high scores for value. We're not the cheapest out there, right? So we're not.
What is your per person check average?
Yeah, so our PPA runs in the $13 range. So we're pretty on par with what you might see at fast casual or with a higher end QSR like a Chick-fil-A or something. But we believe that we deliver a great value through a premium product at an affordable price, right? So we've really continued to talk about that, right? About the value we deliver through fair portions and really high quality. And that is something that, as we look at even the Alex persona, right? That's really important to Alex. Alex cares about where they eat, what kind of food they're eating, that, they want those things like we offer that are handmade. We make all our sides from scratch, right? So those are important to that customer. So we believe that we continue to deliver value through our core menu.
Do Alex and Jake have a protein preference?
So Alex and Jake, we talk. It's funny. We talk about this a lot. I think in my mind that Alex is probably a pulled pork guy, and I think that Jake might be a little more adventurous.
Or gal.
Yeah, that's true. I said guy or gal. Jake might be brisket. I think. Yeah.
And sides, what kind of sides do you offer?
Yeah, so we have a lot of sides and they're fantastic. It's really interesting because when we do focus groups, a lot of people will talk nonstop about the sides. They're really craveable. One of my favorite sides that I think is really interesting is a corn pudding that we serve. It's very unique. It's something you can't get everywhere. We also offer like fried pickles. That's something that again is kind of unique to the City brand. We have a really premium baked mac and cheese where we use 3 different kinds of cheeses and a creamy sauce and just super craveable. Our potato salad, we like to talk about it. Our potato salad comes in the back door as potatoes and celery, right? So it's not coming out of a tub. It's really homemade. One of our managers told me recently, I was doing some training in his location, and he said, I have a customer and she comes in about once a month and she brings her dish. And she asked me to put our potato salad in her dish so she can take it to her family dinner. So, so the sides are really important, right? I mean, no proper barbecue experience is really there without sides and dessert as well. We make a homemade banana pudding. It's one of our signature items. It's our top selling dessert as well. And so we're really known for that one.
What year did you start with the brand?
I started with the brand in 2022. So I've been there 2.5 years.
So in those 2.5 years, have you seen a change in the business?
Yeah, the business is definitely still evolving. We're a 25-year-old concept, but we are, still growing and changing. For us, one of the things that we've always done catering. We've always done it very well. But we didn't put as much, I would just say, organized resource behind it. And last year we really said, hey, you know what, we are great at this and we want to do more of it, and we know we can do more. And so we really restructured our approach to catering and the off-premise business, just from internally, from how our team supported it and from budget and marketing and all the different things. So we put a really heavy shift and emphasis behind that. And so we continue to see that part of the business really grow. One of the things that blew me away when I joined the company was how many weddings we do. If you think about it, we have 80 locations. Last year, we, and I say participated in, but we participated in over 3,000 weddings last year, which is kind of mind-boggling, right?
From 80 units?
Yes, from 80 units.
That's
now,
a
I say
lot
participated because we don't always do the reception. We do a lot of receptions, but we might do, we might feed the groomsmen, right, as they're getting dressed, or, do something else that's, even ancillary to the wedding party. But yeah, we participated in 3,000 weddings.
What is the off-premises percentage of sales?
So we're a little north of 20. So it's pretty.
Has that been growing since the COVID?
It has been growing. Yes, it has. It's a really important piece of the business to us. And aside from just the economic reasons, right, we firmly believe that it's our best marketing, right? If we get City Barbeque in front of somebody and they eat it and they experience it, and I think because we do catering so well, I think that when people experience the care that we put into our catering, I think it speaks to what you can expect from the brand and other touch points, right? Whether you're in the joint or whether you're experiencing us digitally through your phone, through our app.
Does Annica have a favorite City Barbeque meal?
I do have a favorite City Barbeque
Does it
meal.
jibe with Alex or Jake?
I'm probably a little different than Alex or Jake because I obviously eat a lot of City Barbeque. My favorite meal is we have a competition Cobb salad. I love a salad, and so for me, I think it's really craveable. It has eggs and bacon and cheese and all the things on it, but I love to add our pulled chicken to it. Our pulled chicken, it's not as popular from a P-mix, but I just think it's so fantastic. It's really flavorful. We toss it with our Alabama-style white sauce, so it just gives it a little flavor. And when you put that on that salad, man, it's like lights out, totally craveable.
And what makes it a competition Cobb salad?
So it's a competition Cobb because we talk a lot about competition quality. So our barbecue concept actually started, our founder won the Kansas City Royal barbecue competition. And if you know anything about barbecue competitions, that is, that's the gold standard. And so he won that with a group of friends. We refer to them as the Barbecue Boys. So the Barbecue Boys won the Kansas City Royal. They cooked brisket on a Weber grill, and they won with that. So we talk a lot about being competition quality. That's still really one of our core values of our company, that everything we do has to be competition quality. And so we want our salad to be competition quality. We didn't want it to be just an afterthought of a salad on a menu at a barbecue joint. And so that's why we kind of went the route of making it a Cobb, and you can add your own protein to it. And it is competition quality. It's fantastic.
How has City Barbecue dealt with price increases?
Yeah, that's that's a hot button. I can tell you, the organization. We've taken a little price here and there. I will tell you, since I started with the company, we have not taken a lot of price. We've really tried where we can to hold the line. Again, we want to be a great value for our customers. Obviously, we're a business, but so we have a fantastic supply chain team. They're really hard and great negotiators, and so they do a fantastic job with our sourcing. So we've tried to hold the line. We've taken a little bit of price, but I would say compared to the market, we have not taken nearly the price take you've seen in the market.
We are speaking to you from the Chicago show for the National Restaurant Association. Any equipment that you're looking at or other products?
Yeah, for me, I always really enjoy looking at the technology. I'm on the marketing side of the business, so that gets me really excited. I love to see, of course, the food. For me, I just enjoy walking around and seeing kind of what food products and flavors are bubbling up. I think it's a great indicator. But I was really excited to see how expanded the technology offering is at this year's show. So there's just so many interesting things happening out there and so many new products. I thought I was pretty aware of what was on the market, candidly. But when I walked the technology pavilion earlier this morning, I was pretty blown away. And for me, I just thought it was really exciting to see what's happening in our space, because I think sometimes in the past, restaurants, we haven't been maybe as early adaptive on technology as some of our counterpart industries are. And it was really exciting for me to see that.
I was looking at the equipment earlier today. It's amazing what the equipment is doing.
Yeah, I saw some robotic steak grilling happening back there. I don't know if you've checked that out. So, but they told me they'd be cooking later. So I'm going to go back and see what that's about. But yeah, some really cutting edge things out there.
And what question did I not ask Annica that she would like to answer?
Yeah, I think I would like to answer a little bit about my outlook and what I'm excited about with the industry going forward. As you mentioned, it has been uncertain times, but for me, I think, we're seeing people really kind of want to get back to experiences and connectivity with each other. And we're seeing a lot of that happening, not only in our joints, but, you're reading about it in the industry as well. And I'm excited to see that, right? Like humanity operating as humanity should. And so I think, at the end of the day, we're in the hospitality business, right? And so it just feels really good to hear that people really want to get back to experiences and connectivity.
And barbecue is a great place to do that connection.
And nothing connects people quite like barbecue, so it's exciting for us too.
Well, Annica, thanks a lot for spending time with us today. We appreciate it, and that's it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Do you know that 73% of customers agree that a bad restroom experience in a restaurant will impact their willingness to return? Torque Sustainable Hygiene Solutions improve operational efficiency for a better guest experience and better business.